I had always believed my life was ordinary. The small apartment I lived in smelled faintly of old books and rain-soaked carpets. Morning sunlight leaked through the blinds, scattering stripes of gold across the floor. I sipped my coffee slowly, feeling the warmth spread through my fingers. Everything seemed familiar, predictable, safe. Then the letter arrived. No return address. No name. Just a single sheet of thick paper, trembling slightly in my hand. I unfolded it and read the words written in perfect, precise handwriting. You are not who you think you are. A shiver ran down my spine. I laughed at first, nervously, thinking it was a prank. But the ink seemed to burn itself into my memory. I dropped the letter on the table. The sound of it hitting the wood felt deafening. I tried to ignore it. I went to work, typing numbers into a screen. The office smelled like stale coffee and cleaning chemicals. Everything felt the same, but nothing felt the same anymore. The letter's words echoed in my mind. That night, I could not sleep. The shadows in my room seemed to move, stretching across the walls. I could hear the faintest whisper, almost like my name being called. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. The silence was too loud. I decided to search for answers. I dug through old files, photographs, anything that connected me to my past. Everything I touched felt foreign. The people in the photographs smiled, but their eyes were hollow, empty. I realized I could not remember certain events, certain faces, certain moments I should have remembered. The more I uncovered, the heavier the truth became. I found documents that revealed a life I never lived. Names that were not mine. Memories that belonged to someone else. I felt my stomach twist, my hands tremble. I was a stranger in my own existence. The walls of my apartment seemed to close in. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator like a warning. The lights flickered, casting strange shapes across the ceiling. I felt a presence, though I was completely alone. It was as if the world had shifted slightly, leaving me out of place. Then I found the photograph. A picture of myself as a child, smiling in a park. But the face behind the eyes was not mine. Every feature was slightly wrong. The hands, the hair, the way the sunlight hit the skin, it was someone else pretending to be me. I dropped the photograph. It landed face down, mocking me silently. I could feel panic rising, a storm inside me. I ran to the mirror. I stared at my reflection, expecting to see myself. But the eyes staring back were unfamiliar. My mouth moved, my body moved, but the soul inside was not mine. A knock came at the door. It was soft, deliberate. I did not want to answer. The air grew thick, heavy with anticipation. My fingers itched to reach for the doorknob, but fear rooted me to the spot. Then a voice, calm and precise, spoke from the other side. You were never meant to know. Every belief you held, every memory you cherished, was engineered. Everything you believed is a lie. I could not breathe. The room spun around me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run. But my legs refused to move. The voice continued. You are part of something greater. Your life is a construct, a story written for a purpose you cannot yet understand. You are not alone, but knowing the truth is dangerous. The knock came again, louder this time. I pressed myself against the wall. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The shadows seemed to twist, reaching toward me. The letter, the photograph, the mirror, every piece of evidence pointed to the same terrifying reality. The door opened slowly. A figure stepped inside, tall, featureless, yet somehow familiar. I knew, in that instant, that my world would never feel safe again. Everything I believed about myself, my past, my life, was gone. I had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The figure spoke again. You can choose to remember, or you can continue as you were. But remember this, truth is not always freedom. It can be a cage, sharper than any lie. I could feel the air shift around me. The walls seemed to breathe. The floor beneath me pulsed. I realized my senses were betraying me. Nothing could be trusted anymore. I was trapped between reality and fabrication, and the line had vanished completely. The figure reached out. I flinched, but I could not look away. A flood of memories that were not mine washed over me. Faces, places, emotions, they pierced me, yet I had never lived them. I felt every loss, every joy, every betrayal. And then I understood that my identity was not mine to claim. A cold wind filled the room. I wanted to run, but the walls had disappeared. The floor melted into darkness. I was suspended in emptiness, weightless and terrified. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that my life would never return to what it once was. The figure whispered one last thing. The world you knew is gone. Everything you believed is a lie. And yet, you must continue. I felt the darkness close in. I screamed, but no sound emerged. The letter, the photograph, the reflection, they all burned into my mind. I was awake, but trapped in a nightmare that felt real. I understood then that truth is not a comfort. It is a revelation, and some revelations are too heavy to bear. I could feel the emptiness surrounding me. It pressed against my skin, seeping into my bones. The darkness was not just absence, it had a weight, a presence. I wanted to cry, to beg, to fight, but there was nothing to grab onto. The figure remained, silent and unwavering. It did not move like a human, it existed between motion and stillness. Its hand hovered inches from my face, neither threatening nor comforting. And yet, the air between us crackled, electric, alive. Memories surged in my mind again. Childhood birthdays I never celebrated. Friends I never had. Places I had never seen. Yet I remembered them all with perfect clarity. I realized that I was a vessel, a container of borrowed life. Everything I thought I owned, my thoughts, my feelings, my sense of self, was an illusion. A distant sound reached me. It was faint at first, almost like wind, then it grew into a cacophony of whispers. Each voice spoke my name, each tone accusing, pleading, mocking. I clutched my ears, trying to block them out, but they burrowed into my skull. I felt as though my mind was splintering. The figure spoke again. Do not resist. You must see. And suddenly, the floor beneath me changed. It fractured like glass, revealing a void filled with flickering images. Each image was a life, a story, a memory not mine. I saw people I did not know, making choices I would never make. And in every scene, my face appeared, perfectly woven into their existence. I fell into the void. It was not falling in the usual sense. There was no gravity, no ground, no ceiling. Only endless shifting memories, fragments of truths I could not comprehend. I screamed, and the sound carried across the void, twisting into hundreds of echoes. I touched one of the floating images. It was a small boy, laughing in a sunlit field. I felt the joy, pure and untainted. Then the laughter twisted, becoming bitter, a warning. The boy's eyes met mine, and I saw fear, confusion, recognition. And then he vanished. I spun in the void, trying to understand, to find something real, but there was nothing. The figure moved closer, and I could feel its presence like a physical force. It whispered, "Your mind is not yours alone. You were created, crafted, shaped for a purpose beyond understanding." I wanted answers. I needed answers. I demanded them, even though I knew the figure could not, or would not, give them. Why me? Why this life? Why these lies? But the void only pulsed with a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat, not mine, and the figure remained silent. Images changed again. I saw faces that looked like my parents, smiling, loving. But beneath the surface, I could see something else. Mechanical movements, rehearsed emotions, eyes that were hollow. They had existed, but not for me. My life, as I remembered it, had been a performance, a stage crafted with precision. Fear transformed into anger. I wanted to smash the void, to tear it apart, to reclaim what was stolen. I shouted, demanding freedom, demanding identity. But my voice became another echo, swallowed by the endless black. Then, a single memory appeared, brighter than all others. I was in my childhood bedroom. The walls were painted in soft green, the carpet a worn beige. Sunlight poured through the window. And in the corner, a small box, locked and unassuming. I moved toward it. Every step was both infinite and instantaneous. My fingers brushed the box. It felt real, solid, warm. I opened it. Inside, there was a single photograph. It was me, but not the me I knew. This me had a different smile, a different gaze, a different world inside his eyes. And scribbled across the back were words, written in the same precise handwriting as the first letter. Truth is heavier than lies. Some illusions protect more than they deceive. Your mind is both cage and key. The void shivered. I could feel it responding, reshaping, folding in on itself. And then, a sound I had forgotten reached me. The sound of my own heartbeat, real and unmediated. I realized I was standing again, though the world around me had not returned. The shadows, the weight, the flickering shapes, they lingered. The figure remained, distant yet intimate, waiting. I understood that this was a test, a revelation, a beginning rather than an end. Fear still coursed through my veins, but so did clarity. I was not powerless. I was not entirely lost. Somewhere inside, fragments of me, true me, still existed. I had to find them, piece them together, confront the reality that everything I believed was a lie. The figure spoke one final time. Truth is a choice, and choice is a burden. Will you carry it? I stared into the darkness, into the fragments of lives that were not mine. I could feel my pulse steadying, my mind sharpening. I knew the path forward was terrifying. Every step would reveal deception, every memory might betray me. And yet, I would walk it. Because a life built on lies cannot continue without the weight of truth. The void shifted, folding like paper. The figure stepped back, dissolving into the shadows. I was alone, yet not alone. I was awake, yet the world remained uncertain. Every sound, every color, every texture was now charged with new meaning. I stepped forward into the darkness, into the unknown. And for the first time, I felt the sting of reality, and the strange, terrifying promise of discovery. Every belief I held had crumbled. Every memory had betrayed me. And yet, something inside whispered, "You are alive." And that is enough to begin. The world outside awaited, unchanged yet unrecognizable. I had been stripped bare of certainty. And in that emptiness, I found the sharpest edge of freedom. I walked into the night. The air was cold, crisp, real. The stars above blinked with indifferent light. Everything I knew was gone. Everything I believed was a lie. And I was finally awake. Days passed differently now. Time no longer felt linear. Each moment carried weight, each breath a reminder that my life had been rebuilt from lies. The world around me seemed sharper, more vivid, as if the veil had been lifted. I noticed details I had never seen before, the rhythm of footsteps on the street, the way sunlight caught on glass, the subtle scent of rain in the air. I returned to the places I had once called familiar. The apartment, the streets, even the coffee shop. Everything was the same, yet it felt different. The illusion had been stripped away, leaving only reality, raw and unfiltered. The memories I had thought were mine slowly became tools rather than chains. I could separate what had been planted from what had truly grown within me. I realized that identity is not a single truth, but a collection of choices, experiences, and resilience. I was still me, even if me had been constructed differently than I believed. One evening, standing on a quiet street, I felt the emptiness of that void again. It was no longer terrifying. It had become a reminder of what I had survived. The figure, the shadows, the lies, they were no longer chains, but markers guiding me toward understanding. I opened the letter once more. The words no longer burned or mocked me. They simply existed. Truth is heavier than lies. Some illusions protect more than they deceive. Your mind is both cage and key. I smiled faintly, a smile that was mine alone. I understood that life would always carry uncertainties, but that was no longer frightening. I could face what was unknown, because I had faced what was impossible. I walked forward into the night. The stars above were constant, indifferent, yet beautiful. I carried no certainty of the future, only the clarity of survival. Everything I had believed was a lie. And yet, for the first time, I felt the freedom of living in the truth. No shadows could chase me now. No whispers could deceive me. I was awake, and that was enough.